When the lights blasted back on, Michael blinked against the harsh brightness. The hallway he had just been trapped in looked like a war zone. Smoke curled from the laundry room doorway, and fire licked up the walls like a living thing. Water sprayed from a broken pipe above, mixing with blood on the floor and turning everything into a slick, dangerous mess. Inmates lay scattered across the ground, some groaning, others terrifyingly still. But none of it froze him like what he saw right in front of him. The inmate who'd been sprinting toward Michael with the sharpened metal was now lying on the ground, knocked out cold. Standing above him was a tall, tattooed inmate, the same man who had warned him to be careful earlier. His chest rose and fell sharply as he stared down at the unconscious attacker. Then he looked at Michael, eyes sharp but focused, and jerked his head. "Move," he barked, "unless you want to die here." Before Michael could speak, the tattooed inmate grabbed his arm and yanked him onto his feet. Michael stumbled, his legs shaking from the shock, but he forced himself to keep moving. The man pulled him down the hallway as another wave of inmates charged past, swinging objects and yelling threats. The clang of metal against walls echoed to the corridor, drowning out even the blaring alarms. Someone hurled a trash can that bounced across the hallway and smashed into a wall. The tattooed inmate shoved Michael into an alcove. "Stay here," he ordered. He peeked around the corner, scanning the chaos ahead. Michael's heart hammered. He didn't want to be left alone again, not in this hell. But before he could say anything, two inmates appeared chasing a limping guard. Michael wanted to run, but something inside him twisted, despite everything. Seeing the officer limping and terrified woke something in him. "We have to help him," Michael whispered urgently. The tattooed inmate shot him a look of disbelief. "You crazy? That guard would leave you in a heartbeat." But Michael couldn't look away from the officer, who stumbled and crashed into the wall. Behind him, one of the attackers swung a metal bar, barely missing his head. Michael didn't think. He moved. He grabbed the nearest object, a broken mop handle, and rushed forward even though he had no idea how to fight. His heart pounded in his ears as he swung the makeshift weapon as hard as he could, hitting the attacker's arm. The inmate wheeled around with fury, shocked that a maintenance worker had dared to intervene. Michael backed up fast, hands shaking. I didn't mean..." But before the man could strike Michael down, the tattooed inmate dove in, tackling the attacker from behind with force that rattled the floor. The second attacker tried to join, but the injured guard swung a metal tray like a shield, slowing him down. For a moment, Michael saw something he never thought existed at Rikers, an inmate and a guard fighting the same enemy. The tattooed inmate knocked the first attacker out cold. The second backed away, realizing he was outnumbered. Michael grabbed the guard under the shoulder, helping him stand. You saved me," the guard wheezed, barely able to catch his breath. "What's your name?" "Michael," he said. "I'm maintenance." The guard nodded weakly. "We need to get to the security office. Radios are dead. I can't get backup." Michael didn't hesitate. He looked at the tattooed inmate. "Please help us." The man's jaw tightened. "Help you? Helping a guard will get me killed out here. You don't know how this place works." Michael swallowed hard. "Then help me, and I'll help him." The inmate stared at him, really stared, and for a moment Michael wondered if he had pushed too far. Then the man sighed. "Fine, but you owe me." They moved together, Michael supporting the injured guard while the tattooed inmate cleared the way ahead. It felt like moving through a battlefield. Smoke rolled across the floor, thick and choking. Inmates sprinted past them, some fighting, some fleeing, some armed with makeshift weapons pulled from broken doors and torn metal frames. The heat from the growing fire stung Michael's skin. Then, suddenly, a loud metallic crash behind them made him spin around. At the far end of the hallway, a group of inmates burst out of the storage closet, each one holding something heavy and deadly. Hammers, crowbars, wrenches. When they saw Michael, the guard, and the tattooed inmate, their eyes filled with rage. One of them pointed a crowbar toward them and shouted, They're trying to escape. Get them." Not one of them hesitated. They charged as a single violent wave. The hallway thundered with footsteps as the attackers sprinted forward. Michael's blood turned to ice. "Run!" the tattooed inmate shouted, pushing them ahead. Michael and the guard limped forward as fast as possible, slipping on the watery, blood-slicked floor. The pipes overhead hissed. The fire behind them roared. And the sounds of weapons hitting the walls, clang, 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 followed them like a heartbeat. A crowbar smashed into the wall right beside Michael's head, spraying concrete chips across his face. The guard stumbled, and Michael nearly fell trying to keep them both upright. "Move!" the tattooed inmate shouted, shoving them from behind. They rounded a corner, but the sight in front of them made Michael's stomach drop. The entire hallway ahead was blocked. A piece of ceiling and burning debris had collapsed, sealing the path. Flames crawled up the ruin like fingers. Smoke poured into the corridor, making it hard to breathe. Behind them, the attackers' footsteps grew louder as they closed in, wild voices bouncing off the walls. "We're trapped," the injured guard gasped. "No," the tattooed inmate snapped. "There's another way." But his eyes betrayed the truth. There wasn't. Not here. Not now. Michael felt panic rising like a tide. He looked back and saw the attackers rounding the corner. Faces wild, weapons raised high, ready to finish what they'd started. He looked forward and saw fire. Behind him was death. In front of him was another kind of death. The tattooed inmate raised his fists. "Stay behind me," he growled. "If we're going out fighting." Michael held the guard close as the attackers charged. Their shadows stretched across the hallway in the firelight. The man with the sledgehammer stepped forward first, lifting it high. "Nowhere left to run," he shouted. The fire cracked like an open furnace, and smoke burned Michael's lungs as he breathed. Somewhere above them, the ceiling groaned, a long, deep, painful sound, like the building itself was warning them. Michael felt the vibration through his boots. He grabbed the guard tighter. "Dante," he whispered for the first time. The inmate glanced back. His eyes widened at hearing his real name. Another deep crack echoed above them. "Move!" Dante yelled. "Back! Back!" But there was no time. The ceiling above them gave one last monstrous groan, and then it dropped. A massive section of concrete, pipes, metal, and debris crashed down with the force of a bomb. Michael's world went white, then gray, then black as dust exploded like a storm cloud. The sound was deafening. He felt himself lifted off the floor and thrown backward, slamming into something hard. For a moment, he couldn't see. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't hear anything except the ringing in his skull. Then silence. A deep, heavy, unsettling silence. He coughed, choking on dust as he forced himself up. The guard groaned beside him. Dante pushed himself to his knees, covered in dirt. Behind them, the attackers were gone, buried under a fallen ceiling. They were alive, but trapped in a prison growing more violent by the minute. Michael blinked through the dust and smoke. The collapsed ceiling blocked the entire hallway, sealing off the attackers and their only escape route. The surviving fire glowed between cracks, lighting the dust in an eerie orange haze. Michael's ears still rang as he helped the injured guard sit up. Are you okay?" he coughed. "I'll live," the guard whispered, breath shaky. Dante scanned both ends of the hallway, his body tense. "We need to move. This block won't stay safe for long." The alarms overhead blared. Somewhere deeper in the prison, more screams echoed. Rikers was far from calming down. It was only growing more violent. Michael forced himself up, despite the ringing in his skull. They needed to find a safe place, and fast. They stumbled deeper into the prison until the smoke thinned. The hallway opened into an old staff section, dark, dusty, and clearly abandoned. Desks were overturned. Papers were scattered across the floor like a storm had blown through. The boarded windows leaked thin strips of daylight that looked completely out of place in a building drowning in fire and chaos. "This wing hasn't been used in years," Dante whispered, "but it's safer than the main hallways." Michael looked around nervously. He didn't trust any part of Rikers. Not anymore. The guard leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "We need to find somewhere to regroup," he said. But before they could move farther, a faint noise echoed to the dark office room. Something dragging across the floor. Something or someone already in there with them. Michael froze. Evan, the young inmate they'd later learn was hiding, stepped out from the shadows of the office, shaking, hands raised. His orange jumpsuit was torn. His eyes were filled with pure fear. "Please," he whispered, "don't hurt me. I'm not with them." Michael felt his chest tighten. This kid couldn't have been more than 20. Terrified, alone, Dante exhaled sharply. "Kid, this is the worst place to hide. You should have stayed with a guard." "I tried," Evan said, voice cracking. "They got attacked. I ran. I just want to live." Michael looked at him, then at the injured guard, then at Dante. "We're not leaving him," Michael said firmly. Dante groaned. "Great, now we're collecting strays." But even he didn't turn Evan away. The four of them stood together in that ruined office, dust settling, distant voices rising. The riot outside was still exploding, but now Michael's small group was growing, and every new person made survival both harder and more important.